A.C. Coclough, Coclough. And I say, don't get mad, I say Coclough because that's what he said. All right? And my computer says Coclough, and you know, that's technology, so I don't know. But anyway, I want to tell you something about Reverend Coclough. I spent a lot of time on the farm. Our family started back down in Oconee County, Georgia. And my grandpa, now I'm a Maddox. And a lot of you know that there's a connection between the Maddox and the Coclough. But this time, I won't get into that. Maybe next year, we'll talk about the connection between my daddy's family and my mama's family. I'll just tell you now that they were related. I will say this much. Arthur Coclough, his father, his wife, his mother's husband was named Williams. But his father was the letter carrier for that area in Oconee County in Georgia. He was the white letter carrier. That was his father. And so he had brothers and sisters who were half because their father wasn't the letter carrier. It was the man that his mother was, and his name was Williams. And because my grandfather was what we call mulatto, a half white, they didn't get along too well with him. So he went to live with his white in his white father's house. Not with the family, but as a lot of situations in which in that Georgia at that time, a lot of the plantation owners and people of means had black children that were not part of their regular family. But anyway, he lived in his white father's house, not with the family, but he lived in the loft over the kitchen because his mother's and father's, her husband's full children, didn't like him because he was a little too light for their liking. I've seen a picture of him. My mother, Aunt Moselle, and I took a trip down to Oconee County, Georgia, to Farmington, where they lived in 1959. And we visited one of his closest relatives, known as Uncle Eddie, and right now I can't remember Uncle Eddie's last name. But they had a really nice farm, and we had a wonderful time there. And that was a picture on the wall of my grandfather, Arthur Columbus Coclough the first. And it was one of those old oval pictures from the 19th century, which is the century which he was born, before the telephone, before cars, my grandfather. And looking at that picture, if he was African American, you couldn't tell it, but he was. I heard a lot of stories about him then, and now I'm going to not stay on that. I have a lot of things I could relate to you. We'd be here all night. So I'm going to jump to how they got to Greenville. If you knew all the siblings, Uncle James Coclough, James Henry Coclough, we know him as Uncle Jim. He lived in Shelby. How many of you got to meet him?
Well, I did. I was
Uncle Jim.
Uncle Jim.
You knew him, right?
Uncle Jim was honest. He was a great guy.
Yeah.
Would you think Uncle Jim could shoot somebody?
Yeah.
That's how we got up
Any
here.
Coclough can shoot somebody.
All right, okay. All right. What happened, I'm skipping over a lot, and I hope we do this in the future, and I'm going to do some writing. Larry and I have gotten together. He's got a website, and we're going to put a lot of his history. Larry's done extensive research on this family, going back to Ireland, to Scotland.
Too late now.
How we got here?
All the way back to 1300.
Yeah, to the 1300. So we're going to be making that public. But right now, let's just talk about how we got to Greene County and to Cleveland County, North Carolina, which is where I was born. As the story goes, Uncle Jim was a handsome young, Coclough is good-looking people, right?
Amen.
Amen. All right. And so evidently it was over a girl. Well, anyway, he ended up shooting somebody at the church. All right. So I don't know all the details, but I do know this. And so the next day, back then, being African American people in backwoods Georgia, the sheriff kind of let black people take care of their own, I guess, because the next day they were all down the field picking cotton on the elder farm, and the elders is another reason for a later story. And so Uncle Jim knows what he's done, but he ain't said nothing to nobody. They down there picking cotton, and the sheriff rolls up, the high sheriff, and Uncle Jim sees him, takes off running. She'll go, boy, hold up, don't go nowhere, hold up, we got you. So he goes to tell Grandpa, you better get that boy out of here because black people is going to do something. So Grandpa gets the family up and moved to Atlanta. And they live across the street from, what's the university in Atlanta?
Morehouse, Clark, Brown.
No, keep going. Emory. They live across from Emory University. Mom would tell me about she could see the students, going. And while Grandpa was there, now our Grandpa was a very intelligent person. He was a preacher and a farmer, but he was very intelligent. And he started going to night school in Atlanta. And I'm not sure how far he got, but he got far enough to be a preacher and a very much intellectual person. And the reason I say that, when we were on the farm out at Tuscaloosa, there was this little case of books. And every night, he worked hard every day on the farm. And I can remember him playing down in the South 40. Well, we didn't have a 40, it wasn't but 24 acres. And so, but he would be down there, and he was a preacher. So he would be playing. We had an old mule named Jake and a horse named Dobby.
We got Sam.
Huh?
We got the mule Sam.
And Sam was a mule. We were going somewhere, and the mule Jake fell in traces and died right there as you come out the house. Died, so we had to get another mule, and that was Sam. Okay, and all right. Anyway, trying to speed on. Grandpa would be down in the bottom part across the road, and he would practice his sermons while he was plowing. And I would be running along behind him, busting claws with my bare feet, running him. And he was one of those old preachers. He'd be shouting, hollering at you. What did Samson say? Don't cut my hair, do I? But anyway, but like that, and it was wonderful, great memories. And he would be shouting, and I could hear the woods echoing back. And I went to church with him, and and Grandma, Mary Jane, she would get up and get the shout. And she would be getting down, but you better not be sitting near her because that pistol will fly back and hit you upside the head. But, so that was my memory of being at Tuscaloosa College. And Grandpa come here as a sharecropper, and he worked for one of the prominent families in Virginia, the Russell family. So much that he was able to buy that farm, 24 acres. By the time I come along, he owned that and he farmed it. At the time, Uncle Roosevelt, Uncle Root was living there, and my daddy was a son-in-law. Uncle Big Boy would come. He married Aunt Ruth by that time. But before he married Aunt Ruth, we were all out down the farm with Jimmy was living there, Jimmy Coclough. Then Uncle Big Boy's son and Ruby was there with MacArthur. So on that farm, 2 and 3 years old, I was there. MacArthur was older than me, and Jimmy was there, and Lawrence Coclough, Uncle Ruth's older son, he was around, and he would come in. And I remember all those people. And living on a farm was wonderful. I used to play on that farm. Mom and Daddy would leave me there while they worked in town. I never really lived there, but they lived in town. And we had electric lights and running water. But on the farm, we had a cistern. Grandpa did not have, they had lantern lights. You know, you light the lamp, that's all we had. There was no running water, and there was not electricity. So when I grew up to the lamp lights when I was out there, to the outhouse. They never had running water, ever. But eventually, my grandma died when I was 6 or 7. And we lived, there were some other black families, but not real close. All his neighbors were white. But I want to tell you, they helped each other. And there were times we would go to the white neighbors, and they would set us at their table, and we would eat with the rest of the family. That was true integration on that farm. In Greenville, in town, no, it wasn't. And that's something I'll never forget, because they pulled together, the color didn't matter. And at one time there was a black community at Tuscaloosa, and Shahid and Philip, your grandparents lived at Tuscaloosa. And I can remember Joanne Arretta talking about walking to New Hope Church, that community. And a lot of people were confused. They thought my grandfather, being a preacher, was pastor at church. He had nothing to do with that church. It just bordered his farm, and there was a cemetery that Richard Elder got a group together, and we restored that cemetery. But that has nothing to do with Grandpa. It was just at the end of his property. But getting back, let me pick up. But there was a school out there with that church, which I went to school, and I was 4, not 6. They sent me there to get me out of Grandma's hair. And that's just a little about our grandfather. There's a whole lot more to tell, and I'm going to stop now, but we're going to pick up. It's going to be like the Young and the Wrestler. This episode goes on.